Round 3 of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup is here at Zolder in Belgium. It's a proper old school circuit and it always delivers action. Last time out we were at Brands Hatch. The main race was dominated by Lamborghinis away from the grid as they charged their way down towards Paddock Hill Bend, with Felix Morales in the red Mercedes trying to gain ground on the outside line as well. It was Lamborghini versus BMW on the run up the hill, and at Druids Hairpin it was a very crowded circuit, with the Lamborghini from Attempto Racing tapped into a spin, and that was facing the wrong way, the guilty party being Kevin Chekon. As the battles continued up front, there was another spinner, the ISR Philip Salaquada Audi into the gravel, and that would bring out the safety car. On the restart, Morales was on his toes, diving up the inside and gaining a place down at Graham Hill Bend. The two Rover Racing BMWs looking to try to gain ground back again, but Morales was on a mission. So too was Raffaele Marciello in his Mercedes, getting into the back of the McLaren at Druids, prizing open the door and going through. Hustling on as well was the 98 BMW, as there was more leaning going on over at Stirling's, and dust kicked up before the pit window opened. But then disaster for the number 19 Lamborghini. A broken drive shaft meant that was going no further, and contact in the pit lane between Danny Juncadella and Philip Eng led to both cars making contact, and Eng out with a broken drive shaft as he accelerated out of the pit lane. And that was a talking point long into the evening. For number 63 though, there was no drama in the pits. Mirko Bortolotti took over and was on target for a race win as Raffaele Marciello battled on in his Mercedes. Bortolotti, having ticked off a victory at Monza in the endurance race, was on target for a sprint victory as well, and backing up the qualifying race win, a main race victory for Mirko Bortolotti as he came across the timing line with Christian Engelhardt to score victory at Brands Hatch. Reigning Sprint Cup champion Enzo Ede is looking for a good result this weekend on home soil, and the Belgian driver for the Belgian Audi WRT squad has had a frustrating start to the season.
Very difficult. We have been quite well performing this year, but we had a lot of bad luck the first two weekends in Brands Hatch. We got hit in the first corner and had to retire the first race. So I mean, it's sprint racing, everything can happen, and it proves that you need to have luck also. You can be the best in the paddock, but if you have no luck, it's the way it is. So it's nice to be here with the Belgian team in a Belgian track with an Audi.
Another of the local drivers eager for a good result this weekend is Dries van Tor. Again, he's WRT Audi mounted. He's got Marcel Fassler with him as the co-driver, and he should be on for a good result because the Audi's looking much quicker across qualifying. And also, he's very local. He lives just down the road, and all his family and friends are here to cheer him on.
I live 20 meters from the track, so I mean, it's really cool and nice to sleep at my own bed and to eat at home and everything. And of course, I have a lot of friends and family are coming to the track. So yeah, it's giving me a little boost to maybe do that bit more what's needed.
The third of the three Belgian drivers on the grid is Maxime Soulet in the Bentley. He's got work to do in the qualifying race in an ultra-competitive championship.
No, I mean, it's been shown that the level of this championship is it's the top GT level in the world, and every year it's getting stronger and stronger with better cars, better drivers every year, and it's quite an honor to be part of it, especially with a Bentley Continental and Team M Sport. So yeah, quite happy with it.
It's always good to have a Ferrari on a Blancpain GT Series grid, and this car is driven by Piti Beironbachty and Carlo van Dam. Even though Van Dam is Dutch, he's done the bulk of his recent racing in Asia, so he is especially pleased to be back on European soil.
Piti and myself this year came to Europe with an open mind. Obviously, first to see how the competition is like, and from the first event we saw that we can be very competitive. Well, the last time I've been to Zolder was 11 years ago with a Formula Renault. So obviously the car got a lot bigger and more powerful, but the track is still as narrow. So it is quite challenging, but obviously, you know, it's very close to the Dutch border. So it's very good for me to race a Ferrari in front of a lot of Dutch fans and family and friends coming over this weekend. So it's awesome.
Good news this weekend for McLaren. The car's looking a lot more competitive than we've seen hitherto. And one to watch, despite a trip into the gravel in qualifying, is that of Lewis Williamson.
For me, getting the opportunity to race in such a great championship with all these great drivers, it's great. You know, I was talking about it yesterday. This will be my first full season from start, hopefully to finish, since 2011. So you know, I've been out of it for a few years, but Straka and McLaren, they've given me an opportunity to come back and really knuckle down and hopefully put on a good show for all the guys and the team, and you know, repay them. We've had a tough start to the season with incidents that have been out of our control, but you know, the team have worked 24/7 to make sure all 4 cars are on the track.
The car to beat potentially is the Lamborghini Huracan, run by the Grassa Racing team. Ergo Bortolotti, Christian Engelhardt dominated at Brands Hatch.
So far it's been a really, really good season. We had a great start, especially in the Endurance Cup, but also in the Sprint Cup. And we're still in the early part of the season, so we push race by race. And especially looking at Zolder here, it's very important to have a good qualifying.
What about the Mercedes effort this weekend? The HTP Motorsport run cars should be competitive, especially number 84, which will have at the wheel Franck Pereira.
Yeah, it's an important weekend. You know, we are in the third round of the sprint, but no, I think everything is going positive for us. I think we have to do another good result this weekend, because in Brands Hatch with the puncture we lost some points. But we finished P6 in the second round, starting from last, so this was good. But I think we worked really good today. We are improving a lot because the BOP is quite difficult for us, especially on this small track. But I'm very focused. I think we can do something this weekend.
The BMW M6s have had a frustrating start to the season, but should be good around here. At the wheel of 98 is Finn Jesse Krohn.
I think in general, the hotter it gets, the more we struggle somehow. I don't know if it's the turbo engine or we just struggle with the tire deck. Our goals for the weekend, obviously, we need to score as many points as we can to stay as close to the championship lead as possible. We don't know how well the track suits us yet, but I think whatever problems we may have, we should be able to work around them.
There's further Ferrari representation in the AM Cup. The American driver Steve Earle joins the grid this weekend. He's never raced here before. The appeal is it's a proper old school track.
I think right now it's the highest level of GT racing in the world. You look top to bottom, how many pro factory teams we have, and just like we just said, you know, 27 cars in the same second. I mean, that's pretty good.
So welcome to Zolder and welcome to the first of 2 races this weekend. This is the qualifying race where points are awarded if you're in the top 6, and the result decides the grid for tomorrow's main race. And what a race this promises to be. 33 cars set to do battle around what we say is a proper old school circuit. The drivers have just been talking about it being narrow. Overtaking is not going to be that easy, but either way we are in for a great spectacle. The cars are going to be released from the pit lane shortly. They will come round onto the grid. The 2x2 rolling start, of course, to get the race underway. It has been a very hot weekend indeed. Yesterday was absolutely sweltering. It's been a bit more humid today, and we had some very heavy rain briefly around about 12:15. Well, the road is dry once again, but the drivers, as they will head to the grid, will just be making sure that track conditions aren't too different from how they were this morning for the 3-part qualifying session, in which we had a couple of red flags. The first one being because Michael Bronizeski crashed in Q1. The second being that there was a car, a Mercedes as it turned out, in an awkward place at turn 1, just with a few seconds to spare of Q2, and then the grid based on your best time out of Q1 and Q2. If you weren't in the top half progressed to Q3, and the time from that determining the grid order, and it puts Robin Frins on pole position for the Belgian WRT team at a Belgian circuit, and Audi's having had a pretty torrid start to the season. It is good to have them back. So the cars will make their way round, indeed they are doing now, out of the pit lane round to the grid, including 88, the Mercedes of Felix Sarales and Danny Juncadella. 67, Lamborghini, another one to watch, out of the Attempto Racing team, Nicolas Pola and Max van Splunteren, who will start in this qualifying race. David Addison and John Watson trackside, and looking forward to what promises to be a fascinating, frantic race. 1 hour, mandatory pit stops, of course, between the 25th and the 35th minute. Change the drivers, change all 4 tyres, and then go back out. And the beauty of this is, of course, you might well have one driver fractionally quicker than the other, and how is that going to affect the pace of the car in the relevant stint the driver's doing, because the pit lane remains open more than 1 lap around to the grid. So once you get to the grid itself, as you can see, you're pretty much trapped there. But if you want to go round again, come down the pit lane, have another look at the circuit, perhaps just get a bit more temperature into tyres, and if you need to have another lap to assess anything in the car, this is the opportunity. Pit out It's quite a long run all the way around the outside of the first corner, and then you bleed back on the run up towards Kanalbocht. So through first left there, you can see that wide runoff area. And there is pit out. Rather than joining before the corner, you join after turn 1 into this long right of Kanalbocht that brings you round with the canal on the left up towards the Lucien Bianchi corner, and then onto the back straight down towards the first of 2 chicanes, where in qualifying we had marker cones. They have been removed for the purposes of the race, incidentally. Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt come here as championship leaders ahead of Maxi Buch and Franck Pereira, with Andrea Caldarelli third. Jimmy Eriksson currently running in fourth, is taking into account both the endurance and sprint races, because of course there is an endurance championship, there is a sprint championship, and there is the combined championship for all 10 events, which of course includes not just these sprints but the 24 hours of Spa that will be coming up at the end of July. The sprint championship currently being headed by Franck Pereira and Maxi Buch, ahead of Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt. Marcus Paltela and Jesse Krohn come next, ahead of Stephen Kane and Vincent Abril. And then, although they share a car and are on the same number of points, Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins categorised 5th and 6th. Why so? Because in the computer system, they were initially in 2 different driver combinations, because Stuart Leonard drove with Jamie Green in the first event, whilst Robin was away on Formula E duty. They've only scored points together, but Stuart has driven with somebody else, so that's one of the quirks of the system. This is the lap. It is 4 kilometres long, 16 corners, an awful lot of which are right-handers. You've got that first key left, the dive down towards turn 1, and then really, with the exception of the chicanes, everything else is pretty much a right-hander all the way around. It's narrow, it's proper old school. There's limited runoff at certain parts of the circuit as well, and you can't do anything with that, because at one part you've got the canal to your left, at other parts you've got concrete walls and houses, so there's not a lot of room to do anything with the circuit. So it stays as it was all those years ago. 35 years ago, John Watson won the Belgian Grand Prix here. He's on the grid with Stoffel van Doorne.
Stoffel van Doorne, great to see you here at Zolder for the Blancpain GT Sprint Cup. What are your views about all this GT racing that's so successful?
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, it's a series I've been following for a couple of years now. I've got a lot of friends actually racing here this weekend. A lot of Belgian guys in the series as well. So yeah, it's obviously something I've been following. So yeah, I hope everyone is going to have a good race today.
Now next weekend you're going to be heading over. You'll be in Canada, one of my favourite Grand Prix. Have you any thoughts about what might be coming up?
Yeah, difficult to say. It's going to be a first one for me in Canada. I think it will actually be one of my favorite tracks. It's one I'm looking forward to race. So yeah, hopefully we can maintain our performance there. I think last couple of races we've been making a little step forward, and yeah, hopefully we can maintain that.
Are you a party boy or not?
It depends.
Because Montreal is a great party city.
Okay, good. I hope I'll discover that this year then.
All right, now one more question. What's your motorsport history like?
It depends how difficult the question is.
Okay, 35 years ago, a McLaren won the Belgian Grand Prix on the 9th of May. Do you know who the winner was?
John Watson.
Congratulations, the man's won the bonus, $1 million to Stoffel van Doorne. Thank you.
Let's hope he's equally successful in a week's time in Canada. So I can say this now because Watty's not in the booth. It was a great drive by John 35 years ago. He got the lead on the penultimate lap, won by 7 seconds, and it was all down to inspired tyre choice as much as bravery and great overtaking, but don't tell him I said that, will you? The grid then starts to fill as this mouth-watering field lines up ready for 60 minutes of racing. Pole position is on the outside as you look at it, but of course that's the inside for the left-hander down towards turn 1, as through all the engineers, the co-drivers, the grid girls, the VIPs, the media, come the cars. We'll have a full walk up the grid once it's clear at the 2-minute board and introduce you to who is driving what, with, of course, the driver that starts today being the driver that finishes tomorrow's race, and the second driver in the car today will start in tomorrow's main race. And that means that Rob Bell today will do the second stint. He's on the front of the grid, ready to talk to Watty.
Rob Bell, front row of the grid for the Stracker McLaren, but Friday was not such a good day. Explain the scenario.
Yeah, it was a little bit tricky. We missed free practice 2. Basically, we had a problem with the steering, which meant that when I went through the last corner and turned left, I wanted to turn right again to come out of the corner, but unfortunately the car wouldn't turn right, so I basically drove straight into the wall, which looked a bit comedy actually, but turns out it was a screw which had come out of Andrew's helmet at Brands Hatch, and it's been in there ever since, and then finally managed to work its way into the steering rack. So actually, it was unlucky, but if it was turn 4, we wouldn't be standing here. We'd be in a lot more of a problem. So we've turned it around, and we've done a good job.
Absolutely. I mean, that'll be an anecdote for the Rob Bell story of my life, biography, whatever. Andrew put the car on the front row of the grid. I mean, you've been battling a little bit this year with getting the car dialed in. What have you done here to get the car on the front row?
Oh, well, I couldn't tell you that.
Give us a clue, just broad brush stroke.
We've looked at our setup, we've looked at what we're doing. I don't know about BOP. Has BOP changed for here? I'm not sure. But all we can focus on what we've done, and we've been a little bit better here, and maybe a little luckier, and track conditions aren't too hot for us, which is good. If it gets really hot, we struggle. So we've just done a good job. Andrew did a good job. I was P1 in Q1, so clearly the car is there or thereabouts, and we're making the most of it now, and maybe we weren't earlier on in the season.
Now, this is old school circuit, very tight. Pit straight in particular is very narrow. Also, we've got a number of bollards on some of the chicanes. You've got to stay away from those, don't you?
Well, it's track limits. It's the same as everywhere else. There's a lot of fuss being made over it this week, but I get it, but I don't see what the fuss is about. You stay on track, you put 2 wheels within the track, that's what you're allowed to do. If you make a mistake, that's fair enough, but you don't gain any track time anyway. If anyone does it consistently, then they should be black flagged. That's the same as normal, so I don't really see what the fuss is about. We're going to do what we do. We didn't get any warnings in quali, and we'll carry on.
Excellent. See you later.
So Rob Bell, who will take over the number 59 McLaren. It's the car that starts second on the grid. He is, remember, the reigning endurance champion, along with Shane van Gisbergen and Koen Ledegaard, having also this year been third in the Bathurst 12 Hours. He has won the GT category in the Asian Le Mans Series, started off in single-seater racing in Formula Vauxhall Junior a long time ago, and then Formula Renault, and raced at Le Mans, class winner in the Paynos Esperantic, and then moved through Ferrari ranks, and he is a very much in demand GT racer these days, is Rob Bell. He was in the International GT Open Series at Spa a week ago. He's raced in the Blancpain GT Asia Series as well. He will do the second stint in number 59, whereas the second stint in number 17 will be done by Stuart Leonard, and he's on the grid with John.
Stuart Leonard, isn't it a joy to see your car in pole position here in Zolder?
Yeah, no, it's really great. The team and Robin have done an excellent job, and you can't really ask for much better. So
do you think being a local boy that's contributed, or is he just brilliant anyway?
I think he's pretty good anyway.
So what's happening? Robin's going to start, you'll take over. It's always a very tight circuit here. Everybody's aware of the limitations.
Yeah, we just got to keep it cool, make no mistakes, and hopefully if we make no mistakes, we should still be where we are now, but it's a long way to go.
Have you given him the advice of what you want him to do?
He gave me that advice, actually.
Oh, he gave you that advice? All right, enjoy it, Stuart. Thank you.
So Robin Frins on pole position in number 17. The Team WRT entered Audi. An important race, of course, this for Vincent Vossi's squad. On the second row of the grid there is the ACA ASP Mercedes. Number 90 is going to be started by Raffaele Marciello to give way to Michael Meadows. That's going to be another competitive car. We know how good Raffaele Marciello is. Michael Meadows, double Carrera Cup GB champion, so keep an eye on that car as well. And alongside is going to be number 74 Audi. Frank Stippler will go first in the car that he shares with the spectacular Kevin Chekon, another ex-single-seater gun. The grid, I think I'm right in saying, is complete. The one question mark is over number 11 Ferrari, but it is there, look, right at the very back of the shot. The team didn't do anything other than Q1, but the steward said, well, if you can get the damage repaired, we'll let you on the grid. It was a bit marginal, but fair play to Kessel Racing. They have got it on the grid. It is good to go in what might just turn out to be a test session, but we will see how the car gets on from near the back of the grid. Number 90 Mercedes we touched on. Michael Meadows will do the second stint, and he's ready to talk to John.
Michael, another strong qualifying for the 90 Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yeah, it's a good session, quite a clean session for us, and I think Raffaele did well to find some space on his first flying lap in Q3. So, when we came here, we didn't know how this would suit us because we hadn't been here testing or anything. So I think we're probably not quite as quick as the Audi, but to be top Mercedes, I think is quite a good effort, and I'm sure we can do something from here.
Now you say you found some space in qualifying, but how are you going to find space between the two front row sitters?
Well, yeah, that's going to be tough. That's his job. That's why he's in the hot seat. So hopefully, he'll be able to make a move. But I think it's going to be difficult. It's so narrow here. I think you'd have to be at least 2 seconds a lap quicker to overtake. Being a couple of tenths isn't enough. So I think in this race we'll just try and consolidate and look forward to the main race.
Okay, now if you can't get ahead, how do you stop them coming through you?
Yeah, well obviously we've got the green Lamborghini behind. That's been pretty quick in all season really. So if we can keep them at bay and come into the pits in the top 3 or 4, I think that's the plan. We're quite strong in the first sector, so I think if we can be strong through there and then just hold on for the rest of the lap, we'll be okay.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
So Michael Meadows in the ACA ASP entry. And the ISR Audi alongside is going to be the car with Frank Stippler at the wheel for the first stint. So there's a lot to look forward to in this. It's another quality entry. Teams that were really struggling in qualifying for no apparent reason other than just not quick enough. The likes of Bentley and also BMW, the Rover Run M6s were struggling. The 2 Bentleys as well. I spoke, for example, to Marcus Paltela, who said the car's awesome. Well, the trouble is that he starts 26th on the grid. The car felt great, it just was not fast enough. So let's see what progress they can make, for example. Let's hear next, though, from Christian Engelhardt. He's with John.
Christian Engelhardt, I'm not accustomed to seeing the 63 Lamborghini back in the 3rd row of the grid. What went wrong?
Nothing really. We had a really good qualifying session. It's just really tight, really competitive. I think we're 2 or 3 tenths down from pole position, but it's a good starting point for the race. It's 2 long races, so let's see what we can do from here.
But Christian, at Brands Hatch, your car was half a second quicker than the entire field.
I think that was just a really, really good lap from Mirko. Nobody expected that time, and in quali that was an amazing lap. Here it's a little bit tougher for us.
Well, I'm sure you'll make the best of it. Many thanks. See you later.
Just to illustrate how competitive it is this weekend, at the end of Q2 we had the top 27 out of 32 cars at that point, all covered by under a second. Well, this is the car that has been very much the gun car of late, the Lamborghini Huracan, winning in both endurance and sprint events. The Lamborghini with this V10 engine, it belts out 560 horsepower. You've got 2 examples run by Gottfried Grasser's team. Christian Engelhardt, who is best known for his exploits in Porsches, sharing with former Formula 2 champion Mirko Bortolotti, whereas the quick AM, Ezequiel Perez Companc, shares the sister car with Norbert Siedler. Mirko Bortolotti, who has raced and won in the Megane Trophy Euro Cup after he struggled to carry on in single-seaters, having won the Formula 2 championship. He also raced in the slightly quirky Acceleration FA1 championship that was a kind of A1GP incarnation that didn't really last very long. It was a Dutch promoted series, but Bortolotti has plenty of ability. Came out of Lamborghini Super Trofeo, through Lamborghini Squadra Corsa into the ranks of GT racing and has never looked back. He's another busy, in-demand factory driver. So looking down onto the grid, that's going to be cleared shortly. Everybody to make their way back into the pit lane. We've got 3 minutes to go before the start of the formation lap, and then what promises to be a spectacular race will be underway. The threat of rain I think we've had for the day, so it is hot. Interesting to say, hear Rob Bell say that the track temperatures weren't as high and therefore they were likely not to struggle as they had at other rounds, because it feels very hot, perhaps hotter yesterday. It's certainly very humid today, but it's by no means a cold afternoon at Zolder, let's put it that way. So as Thierry Tassin, part of WRT and himself a very accomplished Belgian racer, sets off from the grid. Grid girls leave as well. We are just about good to go. Alain Adam, who is the race director, looking at his stopwatch, coordinating the countdown, and on his signal the 1 minute board will be shown. The engineers will leave the grid and we'll be good to go. And Andrew Watson is at the wheel of 59 McLaren. It's quite a big moment this for the McLaren Junior, on the front of the grid with a whole host of big names behind him, and he's got to try and fend them off. He's also going to try and get past Robin Frins, and he's got to try and keep out of trouble. So Andrew Watson, who came into GT racing from Ginettas, is going to be one to watch at the start of the race. You've got the third cars on the grid, Raffaele Marciello and then Frank Stippler, with Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini lining up there on the third row. Côme Ledegar in the McLaren is alongside. Peter Schotthorst in the Audi with teammate Will Stevens for company. Then Jimmy Eriksson in the green and grey Mercedes, Maxi Buch alongside. The white Audi is that of Philippe Salaquada. Danny Jonquerea is alongside him. Then the McLaren of Lewis Williamson and Carlo Van Dam in the Ferrari. Row 8 is Jules Gounon's Mercedes, and alongside him Christopher Haas's Audi, ahead of Marco Mappelli in the blue Lamborghini, Alvaro Parent alongside them. Nürburgring 24-hour winner last week, Christopher Mies, and Jean-Philippe Belloc alongside him. Row 11 is Daniel Kylwitz with Dries Vantor, another local for company. Philippe Eng lines up alongside Stephen Kane. Norbert Siedler in the Lamborghini has Jesse Krohn alongside him. The next Bentley is that of Maxime Soulet. Max van Splunteren comes alongside him, ahead of David Perel, Lorenzo Caze in the Ferraris. Then Nicola De Marco and Giacomo Piccini, with the last car on the grid being Jules Szymkowiak, who got a 5-place grid drop because he has now got 3 behavioural warning points, and those equate to a grid drop as Stoffel van Doorne waves them away. All of this coordinated by Alain Adon there, the race director, and the cars will work their way now down towards turn 1. The other driver with a grid drop, Lewis Williamson, he also has 3 behavioural warning points, and so a 5-place grid drop puts him onto the 7th row of the grid.
Quite warm in the grid, David. Although Rob Bell thought his car doesn't like warm weather, but nevertheless, you get this sort of muggy weather here at Zolder from time to time, and that's the kind of feeling. What that will do to the respective cars compared to what they did in qualifying, which was done at 9:15 earlier today. So it's a little bit of a voyage into the unknown, but certainly if you're on the front row of the grid like the Robin Friends, the 17 Audi and the 59 McLaren of Andrew Watson, you are in a good situation. And also, you pointed out, cones not in position. So how are they going to monitor track abuse?
Well, Rob Bell's opinion was interesting, wasn't it? Just do what you meant to do, but that's one driver, not 33.
No, and I've always supported the view that Rob has. You can use part of the car to ride the curb. You put all 4 wheels over the curb, then that's starting to get into the area of track abuse. But now that these cones have been taken away, and again at the Villeneuve chicane further around the circuit, so it will be literally in the hands of the drivers as to whether they think they can get away with it. There will be observers all around the racetrack to monitor what is going on. So if anybody thinks they're going to get away with it, better think again.
Who's your money on for this?
I have to say right now, you look at the 17 Audi, Robin Friends, pretty impressive, always at Zolder, right back, peak of his form. He's got over that knee injury he had earlier in the year. So you'd have to think that car's a strong car. But look, all the way through the field, even the 63 Lamborghini, Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt, back in the 3rd row of the grid. That's been the dominant car, really, both in sprint and endurance championship rounds all season. But as it's been pointed out in the grid, it's overtaking that is the most difficult thing pretty much on any racetrack we go to, but here in Zolder, because of the nature of it being relatively narrow and everything is very close to the side of the racetrack.
It's going to be interesting as well to see how Stuart Leonard goes in that second stint in the pole-sitting car. Andrew Watson in the Stracker McLaren then on the inside. So it's Robin Friends in the yellow and silver Audi, Andrew Watson alongside in the McLaren. They work their way now up towards the timing line. If the race director is happy with the grid formation, the lights will go green. The qualifying race underway. Lots of people in the background go for a gap, including there, look, the Lamborghini of Mirko Bortolotti. It's in the middle, there's contact there in the wall straight away. Bortolotti is involved. It looks as though there's the McLaren 43 off the road as well. And so the race will continue. We're going to have a safety car surely as they work their way now into Kanalbach for the first time. You've heard people say how narrow it was. They were all going for a gap, but it just did not work out. And so the race leader is Robin Friends. Behind him is Andrew Watson as they work their way now up towards the Lucien Bianchi box for the first time and power their way now along that back straight down towards the chicane.
Yeah, so it's all a little bit messy. Before the lights went out, there were cars in about row 4 or 5 were trying to shuffle away to anticipate the lights going out. They had to back out of it, and there you can see what's happening. Just there is no room in the chicane for 2 cars or more abreast. Some are having to take the route through the back of the chicane. If there was a gain, then you have to give it up. But as long as there's no gain, you'll be waved that one through.
Now, so far, no hint of a safety car as there's more contact there. Van Splunteren gets assaulted by the Ferrari. And now they all bunch up down. They turn in towards the right-hander and through the chicane. And it's Villeneuve.
Very, very messy. 2 Ferraris, 3 Ferraris, all in that Villeneuve chicane. Somebody got it wrong coming down the hill. And now you can see what's happened. Everybody's all over the place. Tires are picked up the dirt. Yeah,
safety car. Yes. It is there now. That's what I was kind of expecting. The way that some people were slowing was making me think they've got to be yellows. There's the reason for it. So we know about Bortolotti. It's Com Ledegar in 43 that's being dragged out of the way, but hopefully this won't be too lengthy a safety car period. Robin Friends will lead them through at the end of the opening lap. There he is. Andrew Watson is second. Raffaele Marciello is third. And then as there is what's left of the Lamborghini still to be retrieved, it looks as though it's Maxi Buch up into 4th place. Bad news then for Bortolotti, no points, and of course with the result being the grid for tomorrow, that's going to put them right at the back for the main race.
I mean, how your fortunes can turn around, and that's the danger of being, only in the 3rd row of the grid, and we'd have to see a replay of what occurred. There was probably events taking place in and around Bortolotti, but he suddenly found himself on the outside of turn 1 and then the contact with the McLaren, who was responsible, or whether it was just the inevitable, too many cars and too little tarmac. So we would like to see a little replay and get a clearer view. But was sure for me, there were cars anticipating the light going out behind the first 3 or more rows, and that then caused a check-up from those cars behind because they were trying to duck and dive as well.
And so Christopher Haase was involved in it. Another one who was delayed, I fear, Frank Stippler, who has not yet come through. He's in the pits now, so Stippler got caught up in it as well from being on the second row of the grid. Let's have another look.
Now watch behind. You can see the McLaren pulls out, and then the Mercedes also, Max Puch, gets into the middle. So as they come down, the Lamborghini goes from the right of the track and screen over to the left. He's moving to the left and gets tagged. So in reality, Bortolotti was trying to give himself a better line into the corner, and there was traffic there, and that's what caused him to get spun round and hit the wall.
So Ledegar is out, Bortolotti is out, Haase has got damage, Stippler has got damage, and here it is from another angle.
I mean, this is just so close, and if something goes wrong, you can see the Audi clipped the back of the McLaren, and I think that clipped the Lamborghini. So 3 cars all involved on the run down on the right-hand side of the circuit into turn 1, the left-hand turn. But it is always a problem here in Zolder with the very narrow pit lane. The racetrack abuts up to on the one side the pit wall, and on the other side you've got a little bit of grass before you get another concrete wall. So although the effective width of the racetrack is standard, it's what is so close to the edge that does inevitably cause problems.
So Côme Ledegar's return to Blancpain Racing, Blancpain GT Racing, has been brief, sad to say. There, thankfully staying on the lead lap, is Frank Stippler, so he's not gone a lap down. He can now catch up to the queue.
And sadly, I mean, for Côme Ledegar, but even more sad for Johnny Kane. Yeah. He's had the most awful season with one thing and another, particularly you think back to Silverstone in the endurance round there where he clipped one of the Pro-Am cars and had a massive accident on the entry into the Beckett's complex.
They can see the witness marks on the front of Stippler's car, so as he has pitted, he's got a chance to catch up, but then he's got a long race ahead of him. Christopher Haase's car, by the way, still in the pit lane, so there's more to that. He came in fairly quickly, but he stayed in the pit lane. Have another look. So watch Bortolotti. There's Ledegar up against the pit wall. Bortolotti goes for a gap, and then it starts to narrow a little bit, and he just rubs up against Stippler, who therefore rubs up against the McLaren, and bang.
Inevitably, you cannot really change course on the run down on the opening lap into turn 1, because there will be cars literally either side of you, and in that instance you have to say that Mirko Bortolotti would have to carry the lion's share of the contact between the 3 cars.
And it looked as though Haase got into the back of the Carlo Van Dam Ferrari, so that's, I think, where its damage has come from, in that concertina effect that John was talking about earlier. So another dramatic start to a Blancpain GT Series race. And remember, this is only the qualifying race. You get fewer points, you only get them if you're in the top 6, and the result in this is essential to a good grid position for tomorrow. Cars out of harm's way. Are we going to be back to racing this time? Lights are still on, but as soon as they are extinguished, the safety car driver, Anthony Comas, will dive for the pit lane, but not this time. He's missed pit in, so it'll go round once more.
Yes, I think that the marshals around the circuit here, in the pit lane in particular, will want to try and clear any residue of usual story carbon fibre shards. It looks as if they've got it all done, so I would assume as they now go on to their 4th lap of this race, and all of these laps apart from the first lap have been under safety car.
So you're looking back here from the number 98 BMW, the Jesse Krohn car, with the whole pack behind that's coming out of the first chicane, up the brow, and then heading towards the Villeneuve chicane. There was the contact Van Splunteren getting involved with number 11 Giacomo Piccini, so that fired Piccini out wide, and then there were just cars everywhere.
But they were all Ferraris, all red Ferraris, so 3 of them all together in the Villeneuve chicane, and just a real mess, principally coming out of the first chicane and people looking for a track position, and the contact between the Lamborghini and the Ferrari didn't help that situation either.
So the safety car is staying out, but the field now all bunched up, so hopefully it will be in this time. And there is what's left of the Lamborghini, so as long as that wrecker truck is on the track, we have to stay behind the safety car. That's having to drive all the way round to find an access point into the paddock. So it is Robin Frins that leads. Now this is the start from onboard number 88 Mercedes, which is the Danny John Cadea driven ACA ASP car, John.
Yeah, so Danny's staying on the right of the track as you go down into turn 1. Basically all he's doing is just holding station, but sees ahead of him that there has been a contact between 3 cars, is able to get out of it, put himself into what would be the safer part of the racetrack, which at this case was the middle of the racetrack, but he's got the Audi number 2 on his right hand side. That's Will Stevens, and on his left, again, I think it's the number 3 Audi as well, that was Chris Clement Schmidt. So he didn't have a lot of options, but he kept himself out of trouble.
The one blessing about Ledegar's part of the accident was that the car carried on sliding, even though it was at 90 degrees. It went down the pit straight, didn't come across and into the traffic. That would have been really, really serious. Right, the safety car is heading up towards the end of the lap, but it's going to carry on. Lights are flashing, and the recovery vehicle is still out on circuit, bringing Bortolotti's car back. So it should peel off in a moment, I think, out of the chicane. There it is. You can see the damage done. So Grasser Racing Team has a long night ahead of it. Hopefully next time around we'll go racing. I hate to mention this, but safety cars breed safety cars. We have done now 4 laps, but not a complete racing lap. So there's limited tyre temperature for them, and they'll all be really keen, ready to get going. And that hopefully should happen at the end of this lap.
And the 63 Lamborghini with its pickup truck is now off the racetrack just at the exit of the first chicane. But you can see again, there's fluid on the track. That's just a pit lane exit into turn 1. So everybody's being advised to stay to the right as we look at it, of that white line, the pit lane exit line, which under normal circumstances, when you leave the pit lane, you must not cross until that line ends. So fluid, we don't know which car was dropping that fluid, but clearly somebody's oil, maybe water radiator, got punctured in the contact. And that, of course, will mean the end of that car's event here this afternoon.
Hasse went into the back of Van Dam. Whether it's from that Audi, we will try and ascertain. But the marshals want that part of the track to be safe. The race director likewise, before he's prepared to release the car. So are we going to have another lap under the safety car like this as the field works its way then now through the first of the chicanes? Then over the brow of the hill down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Safety car in at the end of this lap. We will go racing this time. So the race director, Alain Adon, is letting them go this time. Before we go back to racing, though, let's just hear the thoughts of Mirko Bortolotti. Our reporter, Dakota Jane, has found him down in the pit lane.
Mirko, now we're going to watch the replay. Can you talk me through what happened in the start there?
I don't need to watch it. I don't really need to watch it. This is like a big disappointment. This is something that I don't accept. I had a perfect start. I went alongside the Mercedes. I was on the straight. I didn't move at all, and then I had a big hit from the right, and that sent me straight into the wall. So I don't know what to say right now, to be honest. I don't feel I did anything wrong. I just went for my gap. I was on the straight with a straight steering wheel going to the corner. I got a big hit, and that sent me into the wall. I hope that the race director sees this and takes a decision on that, but it doesn't change our situation. So it can only help for the future. Big disappointment, and this is not the way I like to race, to be honest.
Cheers, thank you.
We go racing then with Robin Frins over the timing line. Andrew Watson right on his tail. Audi versus McLaren as they dive down towards turn 1. Frins goes defensive. It's a slippery road as well for them to cope with this time, but the Audi fends off the McLaren. Then the 2 Mercedes, 3rd and 4th. Marciello and Maxi Book 4th. Raffaele Marciello hangs on to 3rd place as they work their way now on towards Canal Box for the first proper time, if you like. Hopefully this is going to be a full racing lap. It will be the first full racing lap, and the leader is Frins with Andrew Watson under attack. Raffaele Marciello is right on his tail, and he's taking Maxi Book with him as well. The leader getting away, 2nd, 3rd and 4th as one.
Maxi Book is the one on the move. He's trying to get alongside the sister car, but no chance into the chicane this time. Goes up the inside, now goes back to the outside. You can't really pass on the outside. You can do it on the inside. You have to be fairly and squarely along, and there was no way that Marciello was going to let that 84 Mercedes take away 3rd place as this race gets back underway.
You've heard Mirko Bortolotti's thoughts about the start. The start incident is under investigation, so the story may rumble on post-race. But for now, Robin Frins leads, and Andrew Watson has brought the gap back down. He might have lost out at the exit of Canal Box, but he's got back onto the tail of the Dutch driver now. So it is Audi, McLaren, then Mercedes, Audi. Philip Salaquada running 5th, Will Stevens 6th. as the field works its way then now down towards the Rid curve, that little flick, and the Jackie Xbox is the end of the lap. It's a 1 hour race, but we've got just under 48 minutes remaining because of that lengthy safety car period. Up towards the timing line they will come. Frins leads the way. Second is Andrew Watson. Third is Raffaele Marciello. Maxi Book fourth. Fifth over the timing line is Salaquada. And the top six rounded up by Will Stevens. Jean Cadea is seventh. Eighth is Jimmy Eriksson. Ninth is Carlo Van Damme. And then in 10th place it is Alvaro Parent in the McLaren.
There's much of the action coming down on the right-hand side of your screen. The Ferrari diving down the inside, getting past one of the attempt to, but again the undercut from the Lamborghini. Can he make it stick? The Ferrari runs very wide, but it's got track position and following in back. Well, the two Ferraris, I mean, these are two of the three cars we saw in that initial opening lap battle up over down into the Villeneuve chicane.
At the wheel of number 11, Giacomo Piccini being terribly brave about it all as the cars work their way now into the first chicane. This is lap number 7, and Robin Frins trying to break away from the opposition. The best of anybody in the first sector, incidentally, just Maxime Soule, who is down in 21st place, but he may well be 20th now. He was just about to make a move under braking for the chicane. So Bentley 8 is on a mission as Frins again tries to gap the opposition over on the far side of the circuit. Out of that Villeneuve chicane they come now.
Yeah, Robin Frins has got the best situation of anybody. He's got clear track ahead of him. He can position his car wherever he wants. He's not having to be defensive. He's able to pull away marginally from the second place McLaren, and Andrew Watson in that 59 McLaren is having to be very aware. Marcello in the Mercedes and Maximilian Buch, who was very, very racy once this race got back underway. Things settling down, but the difficulty is you've got a line of cars. They're all pretty much lapping much the same pace. Where do you find a way through?
The balanced performance, of course, tries to equate all of these cars, but if they're all equal, overtaking becomes very hard indeed. As you ride on board now with the reigning Sprint Cup champion Christopher Mies, comes over the timing line, winner of the Nürburgring 24 Hours a week ago for the second time, and he turns his way then now up towards turn 2, which is Sterrenwacht. We've had a change lower down as well as the number 19 Lamborghini falls back. There it is. It has got Norbert Siedler at the wheel of it for the first stint. And Norbert Siedler battling with Daniel Kalvitz in the green Ferrari. Kalvitz, another gun, who's got work to do down in 19th spot at the moment. Stephen Kane's Bentley next in the queue. Then Maxime Soule. Jesse Krohn is 22nd. So some big names a long way down in, as we keep making the point, a very high quality entry. Now, at the end of that previous lap, the lead gap 1.2 seconds. Robin Frins creeping away, but it's going to be fascinating when he puts Stuart Leonard in the car, less experience, going toe-to-toe with Rob Bell.
Exactly, so that's the hope maybe that Stracker McLaren will have. Andrew Watson, if he can keep the car within 5 seconds at the end of his stint. And the pit stop window is going to open up in 10 minutes anyway, so will the Stracker team bring the 59 McLaren in at the earliest opportunity, or keep Andrew Watson in and look for track position? The big difficulty everybody will face is that if you bring a car in and then you fall back into the group of cars that you would naturally not be within, getting past them is going to be a problem.
Now, a car that was delayed early on, we didn't see why, but Peter Schotthorst has fallen back into 30th place, number 3 Audi, and has done the fastest lap of the race in his recovery. So number 3 is down in 30th place, but Schotthorst is on a mission as you ride with Mies up towards the timing line. The lead gap is going up. It is 1.8 seconds. And there, over the timing line, Philip Eng comes up to have a go at Dries Van Thor, younger brother of Lawrence Van Thor. And it is Dries then, one of the 3 Belgians on the grid, trying to hang on to that place. But now, as they work their way into the right-hander at Sterrenwacht, to the outside line goes Philip Eng. He's made his name in Porsches, but Eng now a BMW driver, and he's right there on the tail as they run up towards Canal Box and then the Lucien Bianchi corner. Dries Van Thor defending from Eng. And then you've also got number 89, Jean-Philippe Belloc, next in the queue. He's under pressure from Norbert Siedler. And then 19th is Daniel Kalvitz.
I mean, it's just a high-speed chain of cars. Nobody's got any advantage. Nobody is going to give up a position. They would rather defend vigorously than give it up, because they know that if they do lose it, they're going to have trouble. Now we're looking at the 19 Lamborghini trying to get up alongside the Mercedes, goes a long way around. If it can hold it, it will get into the Villeneuve chicane. And that's a squeeze, and the Ferrari's trying to slip through as well. So Karlovic and the Lamborghini get one more position on the 89 Mercedes.
And there are the Bentleys together. Stephen Kane ahead of Maxime Soule, looking to try to gain ground behind both of them. You've got Jesse Krohn, so there's a great battle going on here, but it's a long way down the order. And at the moment, the man under huge pressure there, look, is Belloc. He's lost a couple of places. He's going to lose 3, 4, 5 more if he's not careful, because he's got some real good drivers stacked up behind him. Peter Schotthorst has done another fastest lap of the race, but now he's counting not only the seconds from the cars ahead, but also the opportunities diminishing to the cars ahead, because once he gets into the traffic, it's going to be hard to work a way through and make more places up because of the narrowness of the road going against him.
It is frenetic stuff. You can see how difficult it is. Everybody running under the rear wing of the car ahead of them, and somebody's running under your rear wing to gain your momentum, to try and find a way to get a run on a car ahead of you. Well, your pace is being controlled by the car ahead of you. His pace likewise, and it goes all the way virtually up to what would now be second place Andrew Watson, 1.7 seconds behind leading Robin Freins. But more importantly for the McLaren, they've got a 1.1 second advantage over the 19 Mercedes-AMG Raffaele Marciello.
42 minutes to go. We approach the pit window. It's between 25 and 35 minutes of the race. Don't forget, you're riding with Maxime Soulet here, looking at the back of Stephen Kane as they bounce their way through the first chicane and now over the brow that will take them towards Villeneuve. Maxime Soulet just drops back a length or so. There is the race leader. The gap was up to 1.8. It's down to 1.7. And behind, Andrew Watson hustling on, trying to close on the Dutchman for Team WRT. But Audi has had a pretty modest, shall we say, start to the season. This finally looks like it's going to be a good weekend for Team WRT collectively. Different entrants, but it's the same team operating the fleet of cars, and for the first time we're seeing a number of them up at the pointy end. Now don't forget, you've got the ISR cars as well. Frank Stippler badly delayed in 28th, Philippe Salaquada running in 5th spot there. Number 1, Christopher Mies with work to do, still trapped in 14th place. He'll give that car over to Enzo Ede. Lead gap is still 1.7 seconds. We're about 6 minutes, give or take, away from the pit window opening.
So the pace of the lead and second place cars is pretty much within a thousandth of a second identical. Third place Mercedes dropped back by all of a tenth of a second on the last lap, and in the fourth place car is half a second behind the third place Mercedes. So the battles, simply, there's the lead car, there's the second place car. Robin Freins, if he catches up to traffic before he makes, or the pit stop window opens for him, it's probably unlikely it's going to happen, because the pace of this field between first and rear, it's less than half a lap between first and last.
A drive-through penalty for Andrew Watson for being out of position at the start, and a drive-through penalty for Frank Stippler for being out of position at the start. So Stippler came a cropper in the first accident anyway, but Andrew Watson, number 59, is being given a drive-through penalty for being out of position at the start. Was it? Well, we'll have another look, I'm sure.
I'll look to see it, because there was so much going on at the start. And that, at the start, it means at the point before you cross the start line. So there must have been something that the officials have picked up on, and that's that's the end of the race for the 59 McLaren, because by the time it gets in and serves its penalty, gets out, more than half, if not 3/4 of the field will have made their way past on the racetrack.
And as we have learnt this year, once the message is on the timing screen, it's there, you can't go and start arguing about it, it's all too late. So there'll be yet another groan at Straka, because a golden chance to win a race is about to go begging, as there to the outside line, Stephen Kane makes his move against Jean-Philippe Belloc for 19th place, and the Mercedes has the inside line and can't find a way by.
But it's the undercut that Stephen Kane's looking for. He can break a little bit later into turn 2, but the Mercedes has got track position.
It's Maxime Soulet, apologies, because Soulet has got past Kane out of sight on that lap, so Maxime Soulet then looking for a way by, coming now through Canal Box, so Soulet is ahead of Kane. They've reversed themselves, give Maxime Soulet a chance to perhaps force his way through the traffic. Stephen Kane following through. Maxime, who is a real star around here, the Belgian driver on home soil, lines up to have a go down to the chicane. Is he going to brake late? No, couldn't do it, so has to slot back in behind. This is the battle for 19th place, but it's Maxime Soulet taking up honours now for Bentley. Must be so frustrating when you're driving your heart out so far down the order, down towards the Villeneuve chicane, and Belloc defends. There's nothing Soulet can do there.
No, and that was a fair defence. He didn't weave. He just put his car on the part of the racetrack that Maxime Soulet wanted the Bentley to occupy. And again, you can see how hard it is for the entire group of cars running behind Belloc in the lead group of cars as they come down at the far end of the racetrack, then exit out of this through the Jochen Rindt chicane, then up to the Jackie Eakes chicane. But it is so difficult. There was over 20 cars that qualified well under a second.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so difficult, so competitive.
Andrew Watson serving his drive through, so the McLaren falls down the order. Back on board with Soulet. This time he's got the inside line. Bentley versus Mercedes. Are they level? Not quite. Again, Jean-Philippe Belloc stays ahead, but He's under huge pressure from Maxime Soulé, who is throwing everything at this. Now, we know how good Soulé is. Fair play to Belloc for keeping him at bay. Now, through Canal Boch they come. This is Soulé's chance up towards the next rise at Lucien Bianchi corner.
But he's not far enough up to make a move down the inside. He needs to use that Bianchi corner as preparation to come off the corner quicker than the Mercedes to try and get the run up the hill. But you have to be absolutely square alongside before you hit the brakes. And again, the straight line performance of... Oh, and he overruns the chicane. Now, will that be seen as a penalty that he will have to... Did he gain something out of that? One might say, no, he didn't, but that's for the stewards to examine, and whether they will make a decision that he might have to drop one position, or whether they'll say, well, he didn't gain anything in time, he did back off momentarily, so let's leave it as even Stevens.
Well, Maxime Soulé is still pushing, desperately keen to find a way through up into 19th spot. Behind him is Stephen Kane, behind Kane is Jesse Krohn, or Jesse Kukisonio to give him his proper name, but he races as Jesse Krohn. Andy Soucek and Malcolm Wilson look on, and Belloc being warned about respecting track limits. Up towards the timing line now, look comes number 1, which is Christopher Mees on the back of Jules Gounon. He's now up alongside as they come through. So another place about to be gained. Mees on the outside line, no, can't quite do it there, but wide goes Gounon. Does this give Mees a chance to challenge? Mercedes to the inside line, Audi on the outside as they work their way now into Sterrenwacht. And right up behind the pair of them is Dries Van Thorp.
And Christopher Mees needs to be careful. He's using the racetrack to try and gain track position to get the advantage over the 87 Mercedes, but in the process he's leaving himself vulnerable from the sister car of Dries Van Thorp to slot his car into that bit of racetrack which is presently unoccupied.
Andrew Watson 28th after that drive-through penalty, as there is Gounon 13th as they wriggle their way through the chicane. They're all stacked up behind him, aren't they? Back on board with Maxime Soulé, and he's still 19th, and there's the challenge coming. Round the outside goes Mees. He's going to go through, is he? Yes, through into 12th place. Great, brave effort that up the inside, and it's worked.
Yes, and he did it all through the first chicane. He used his track position, he got the run off the chicane, and now one of the Mercedes is stuttering and staggering.
Belloc, yeah.
Has he got a problem, or has he just sort of been out-fumbled as both Bentleys try and do? Maybe there's something wrong with the 89 Mercedes. Suddenly it lost all momentum coming into the Villeneuve chicane and has been overtaken by two Bentleys now by the Ferrari.
Giacomo Piccini through as well. Christopher Haase, incidentally, after his early pit stop, he has lost 9 laps. He's back out and has done the fastest lap of the race, so all is well now with number 26 Audi. Robin Fritz leading. Now 2.5 seconds is the advantage over Raffaele Marciello, who last time did the absolute best in the first sector. If Marciello can get closer, then it's going to be game on, isn't it, between Stuart Leonard and Michael Meadows going into the second stint. The pair of them, of course, last year were teammates. They drove together. Now they're going to be rivals in the second stint, to the outside, the inside, and everywhere, looking for a way by Jesse Krohn, but he has not yet been able to dislodge Jean-Philippe Belloc. There's dust settling ahead of him. Krohn to the inside line. Is he going to go through? Not quite. The pit window is open as Belloc just hangs on to 22nd place.
And Jesse Krohn doing all he can again, coming out of the canal curve, as it's called, into the Lucien Bianchi corner. This is where you have to start doing your work. In fact, you start it before you come into the Bianchi corner, because until you can get the drive on and look behind the BMW car going one way, back the other way, and here we are through the chicane, looking backwards at the 89 Mercedes.
Over the brow, down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Jesse Krohn hard at work, another former single-seater racer, and now very busy GT driver for the Rover team. Like many on this grid, he was in the 24-hour race at the Nordschleife a week ago, and he's busy defending now. He's got Jules Szymkowiak behind him, just to illustrate how difficult it is to pass around here. Szymkowiak started last on the grid, so that was 33rd. Even allowing for others with problems, he has still only been able to get up to 24th, so it's hard to make progress around here. You need to either be really brave or to pressure a mistake out of the guy ahead.
Well, it's not that it's a narrow racetrack, but everything is very close to the side of the racetrack. Szymkowiak straight into the pit lane to make one of the first stops we expected to see. But it's because these GT3 cars are all physically large cars. You can see one of the two Bentleys making its way down the pits as well. And
that's the chicane.
So McLaren 58 in.
So lots of pit stops come in. Also there 27. Nicola De Marco in. Jules Szymkowiak in, as we have seen. Philip Eng is in. 42, Lewis Williamson. Will Stevens has pitted early. And there, 58, also Alvaro Parent down the pit road. Right, Bentley 7 stops. Out will get Stephen Kane, Vincent Abril to take over. 58 blasts away. So
Ben Barnicoat will be behind the wheel.
Straka cycling 2 cars through there. Ben Barnicoat, another impressive driver, single-seater racer, aren't they all? Now coming into GT racing, Stephen Kane's work is done, he runs away. And away blast Vincent Abril. We've got Jules Szymkowiak's car in a moment, set to go now with Fabian Schiller at the wheel of it. There it is.
I mean, everybody will be looking to the pit stop as being their best opportunity to make up position, because overtaking on the racetrack, as we've seen, has proven so difficult. The gap between first and second, it was 2.5 seconds when they came across the line at the end of lap 15. It's now 1/10 of a second less, 2.4. So the Mercedes number 90 of Marcello fractionally closing down the lead. Idea of Robin Freins.
Philippe Salaquada is in, and there also Peter Schotthorst now to give way to Jake Dennis in the number 3 Audi. Stephen Kane, helmet off. That was hard work.
Interestingly, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place Mercedes GT3 or AMG GT3s.
And how is 59 Andrew Watson getting on? Well, 26th at the start of the lap. He will have gained with a few more peeling into the pit lane. There's Vincent Abril, number 7 Bentley. So the pit window remaining open until we've done 35 minutes. So we've got 3 more minutes just about. As there is the race leader, Robin Freins, the gap 2.4 seconds, but it's come down by 4/10 in the first sector of this lap. So Raffaele Marciello, with clear real estate ahead of him, is treating these final laps before the pit stop as a qualifying session in a way to try and bring down that gap and give Michael Meadows in the second stint the best possible chance of a race win.
Well, Robin Freins had a clear and, relatively speaking, easy drive so far, but now that we're getting into this situation of drivers making their mandatory pit stops, will he stay on track, will he continue on? He's going to continue on. There you can see the Mercedes. It's difficult to eyeball it, but Maximilian Buch, he's decided to come in. He's going to hand that car over to Frank Pereira. So that's just midway between opening of the pit lane and closing of the pit lane.
So Maxi Buch down the pit lane, and the second chapter of the Buch Mercedes is going to be taken by Frank Pereira, switching from Audi to Mercedes this year. So that car will drop. Also in, we've had 888 David Perel to give way to Steve Earle, the 1AM Cup Ferrari. Down the pit lane also Dries Vanthoor. In number 5, he will give that car to Marcel Fassler, and will be one to watch, of course. Now that Antonio Felix da Costa is behind the wheel of number 99 BMW, he's done the absolute best in the first sector. Best lap of the race still claimed by the badly delayed Christopher Hasse.
This is going to be a key pit stop for the 84 Mercedes. If they can make time, make ground, they may be able to leapfrog the number 90 Mercedes, the ACA ASP car. Whether they can do anything with the WRT lead car, the Audi of Robin Freins, which will be taken over very shortly, the 17 car by Stuart Leonard, is a mute question. But there the 84 car is rolling down the pit lane, and where it will feed back in again, well, it'll take a couple of laps for this all to cycle through.
It just looked for a moment as though maybe that was a slightly earlier stop than they'd expected, because they didn't seem to be quite ready with the tyres. They just looked as though they were on the pit apron, but not quite where they needed to be for the car. Maybe it was just the angle of the camera, but I wonder whether that was just a little bit earlier and it was a last-minute decision by Buch, given that he was stuck in traffic, to come in. Either way, we have got now just under half the race remaining. Robin Freins leads, but the gap has come down significantly. 2 seconds. Both the top 2 are in the pit lane. So down the pit road comes leader Freins, second place Marciello. There they are, nose to tail coming into the pit lane. It was 2 seconds a lap ago, and now down the pit road they come as one.
Well, if you're going to roll the dice and toss the coin and whatever, you'd have to say pit stops historically have favoured WRT, to take nothing away from ACA ASP. So this is going to be the pit stop that will define the outcome of who will stand on the winner's podium. But don't forget the HTP, the 84 car, it came in 1 lap earlier. It's back out on track, depending on where it filters in. But it's Clemens Schmidt right now who's made his pit stop, who's in the 75 Audi, who's just set fastest first sector, personal best in the second sector. The Audi is rolling, so there's the 90 Mercedes. It's Offers Jacks. There is the 84, so where will that filter in as the 90 goes down the pit lane? It's a slow pit lane exit. There's the car that led the 17 Audi, Stephen Leonard behind the wheel.
So this now could put Frank Pereira into the mix, couldn't it? Because who is going to lead? It's going to be Stuart Leonard up front. Second is Michael Meadows. Third now over the timing line. There you can see 84 Frank Pereira. So it's going to be a fascinating second stint this, and Stuart Leonard, quick as he is, he's not as experienced as many of those around him. He's going to be feeling the pressure now.
Absolutely, but pretty much status quo. If anybody was going to make a move in the pit lane, they didn't do anything better than their principal two competitors. So the 88 car, that's the car driven by Daniel Juncadella, which is the car that currently leads the race, and he will be in at the end of this lap because the pit stop window will close at 25 minutes. So he'll be in with about maybe 15 or 18 seconds to spare.
The other car that's in the equation now, number 2, Will Stevens, came in early to give way to Marcus Winkelhock, and that now is up in a 4th place. So this is the on-the-road leader, Danny Juncadella, the former Mercedes DTM racer, F3 Euro Series champion. As down the pit lane there comes Giacomo Piccini's Ferrari, Jessic Krohn's BMW in the background as well. So we've still got a handful of cars to cycle through, and Kevin Check on there, number 74, having taken over from Frank Stippler. Battles on through the first left. He's got the Ferraris behind him, and then also you've got the McLaren, which is trying to work its way back into the game. That's now got Rob Bell at the wheel, number 59, but it's a forlorn hope. Now what do we see here?
It's in 11th place.
This is the BMW being caught out by the slower Mercedes ahead and having to come into the pit lane.
Well, was he originally intending to come into the pit lane? He pretty much had to because the pit stop window is about to close, but nearly tagging the rear of the Mercedes. Of course, you don't have to brake to enter the pit lane, whereas you have to brake heavily to take the final 2 corners before you get on the pit straight.
So on the track, we have got Juncadella from Van Dam, first and second. Marco Mappelli runs third. Here is Juncadella then into the pit lane because we've got a minute and a half to go, so he's got to come in really to be safe. And the order is going to shuffle once more. Juncadella is on it until now. He gets to the pit lane speed limit line, starts to loosen the belts, ready to leap out of the car. The chicane's put in to make sure that everybody's slowed down the pit lane. Also in is Van Dam, Mappelli, Mies, Gunon, Seidler. So this should give the lead back to number 17 then, Stuart Leonard, having taken over from Robin Frintz. The team's there waving the boards to say to their driver, this is where you need to aim for. Second then is Michael Meadows from Pereira. Looks like he's the real danger man in this, doesn't he? He's on the back of the Brit. Similar cars, different teams. The Mercedes AMG GT3, ACA ASP trying to fend off the HTP challenge. Right there, 88 Juncadella is in to give way to the Puerto Rican Felix Morales, who came from American single-seaters into European single-seaters into European GT cars. Here's the second and third and fourth battle. Mercedes, Audi. Stuart Leonard's going to pick up the race lead then as they come over the timing line. Away now goes the Mercedes of Sorales. The leading 4 go through, and 5th is going to be Clement Schmidt there, looking the white ISR Audi taking over from Philip Salaquada. So at the moment, Leonard has got an advantage of 2.6 seconds over Michael Meadows, who for the moment is so busy defending he can't really go after the leader.
No, and that will be the strength that Stuart Leonard will be looking for. He knows that there's going to be a squabble going on between the 90 and the 84 Mercedes, and Stuart Leonard's got clear air and he hasn't got a battle. So these 3 cars all not quite tripping over one another yet, but they know that if one opens up a gap, the other 2 will try and find a fit way to get through.
Over the brow towards Villeneuve goes then the lead battle. There is Marcus Winkelhock, currently running then in 4th place. Michael Meadows under attack. Now we need to start looking at sector times because he's fractionally quicker by 10th in sector 1 than Stuart Leonard as they turn their way then from Tilamenbocht down towards Boldenberg at the bottom of the lap here. Hard on the brakes, they will turn right. Meadows ahead of Pereira, then Winkelhock, and then Clement Schmidt, another ex-Porsche racer, in the queue, and he's closing. Now what do we have here at the first chicane? Piti Beiron-Bakhti running alongside Vincent Abril, and Piti Beiron-Bakhti comes off worst.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, the Bentley was fair and square alongside the Ferrari, and there was no point in trying to make an issue of it. You just get out of it and accept that the Bentley has got track position. But that's, you know, the difference between the pros and the talented AMs that are out there. But that's one place that you can make the pass. You've got a good example of what you need to do, but you do have to be fair and square alongside the car, which you're going to make that attempt. Now back to the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th places, and Stuart Leonard has a 2.4 second advantage over the 90 Mercedes. Michael Meadows behind the wheel, and Frank Pereira literally in his wheel tracks in 3rd place.
But that lead gap is coming down because it was 2.6, it's 2.4. So although Meadows has to be conscious about defending, and look at the battle pack behind him, Pereira, then Winkelhock, then Schmidt, all closing up. he is still being able to chip away at Stuart Leonard's advantage. 23 minutes on the clock. Now, assuming they all catch up to the Audi, how easy or otherwise is it going to be to find a way past? Stuart Leonard needs to grow horns and stick out his elbows if and when he needs to start defending for that race lead. So the leading 5 almost together. 6th now Serrales, 7th is Enzo Eid. In 8th place it is the Ezequiel Perez Companc Lamborghini. 9th is Dominic Bauman's Mercedes. 10th is the Lamborghini of Giovanni Venturini. How the Bentley's doing. Vincent Abril 13th now.
Yeah, Andy Soucek all over the rear of the Ferrari, the 333 Rinaldi Ferrari now with Alexander Matschul behind the wheel, kicking up dust. This is part of the... Oh, and there's the BMW right in the middle of the exit of the chicane. You can see he's gone in sideways and bounced all the way. Conto! Wow, now that was heavy contact. And you can almost see the Lamborghini puts his nose to the rear of the BMW. We need to have a review of that. I don't want to make any criticism of the orange one, Team Lazarus, but was that Nicola DeMarco or was that...
It's Gustavo Jacquemin at the wheel of that
Gustavo
car.
Jacquemin. Well, Gustavo, wonder what you might want to say to that to the stewards.
Marcus Paltela has got off the road there with damage on the front. He's picked up some of the track furniture, bit of a Pirelli hoarding you can see right round the front of 86 Mercedes. So Dominic Baumann then with a bit of furniture stuck to the car, and away back into the race goes Marcus Paltela. There's more debris lying on the road. Does that need retrieval?
Well, if it doesn't get retrieved, it'll get destroyed.
Yeah.
So there's a waved yellow flag there, and once everybody's cycled through once, now let's see what happens with the Lamborghini. The bodywork doesn't appear to have come from it, from what we can see.
I think
so maybe the BMW.
No, I think isn't it the front square on the front of the Lamborghini, that piece of bodywork missing, so I think that's what's dropped off after the contact. We'll have another look in a moment, but I thought it had come off that car, and Gustavo Jacquemin will, I fear, have a case to answer. It's going to be investigated, I'm sure, as the battles continue lower down the order. So that throws Marcus Paltela out of the equation. There, number 11 is Michael Bronizeski up into 21st place now. Number 7, Vincent Abril. He and Stephen Kane have turned their race around. Okay, it's only 13th, but from on the fringes of the top 20, they're now in the game a bit more.
Yeah, alarm bells must be going off at Team WRT because the gap between lead and second place cars was over 2 seconds. Now it's down to 1.1. So there you can see what has happened. The train of cars led by Michael Meadows and the Mercedes-AMG GT3, the 84, and then the 2 Audis behind, beginning to hunt down, I guess like a pack of hyenas almost hunting down their quarry. That's not a prey, their quarry.
You can almost hear the hyenas laughing from here because there are 4 drivers there, all sniffing a chance of making up more progress with 20 minutes to go. Michael Meadows then, who used to be Stuart Leonard's teammate and co-driver. They've raced together a lot. Now they're going to go head-to-head for a first outright win. That piece of bodywork still lying on the road. Of course, there's that little marker just the other side of the brow to say keep this side of the road. So they're all avoiding it for now. No marshal is yet brave enough to run out and go and retrieve it, understandably. 2 Mercedes, second and third, nose to tail. And the incident that we saw between Jacquemin and Paltela is under investigation. Marcus Paltela, the Finn, but an honorary Belgian. He lives in this country. There are the Mercedes. Look, closing. 210s taken out in sector 1. 210s taken out in sector 2 as 42. McLaren gets the squeeze. That, rather uncompromisingly, David Fuminelli being involved with Vincent Abril. There's Marcel Fassler in the Audi there as well.
Yeah, it was a very ambitious move on the part of Vincent Abril to get the car down the inside of the McLaren. It wasn't sufficiently far, and everybody's got to slow down and turn, so Vincent Abril thought he had a chance. Don't think anybody else did.
So Abril trying to hang on to the place, but 12th is Fuminelli. He's on the back of Ben Barnicoat there, looking the orange and green McLaren. So Abril turning his way through. Fassler tucked up behind him. The lead gap is down to 9/10ths. We understand that debris on the road has now been removed. So the race director communicating that to the teams so they can tell the drivers the road is clear if they need that width of track. Down through turn 1, 19 more minutes of the race remaining. And Stuart Leonard is on borrowed time as there. Alexander Matschul has a go up the inside of Piti Biron-Bahti for the lead of Pro-Am. They are together. The 2 Ferraris absolutely dead set level. Biron-Bahti on the inside line fights back, but round the outside goes Alexander Matschul. And as they come through Canal Box, he's got the job done. He leads the class with a great move.
Yeah, good clean move. Both Ferraris wanted to have that piece of turf going into turn 2, but it was Matschul who really had the advantage onto turn 1, and he used that. And the tie-driven Ferrari, he wasn't able to get sufficient track position, and there you see what's happened.
Into the chicane, so the Pro-Am leader getting away. Behind as well, look, is 85 Fabian Schiller, who split the two. So Beron Bakti now dropping away, racing here for the first time, so he's having to learn about the circuit as well as battle on, but he's falling away a little bit now as you go on board with Gustavo Jackermann, who is in 24th place, turning his way out of the first chicane. The scene of his incident a few laps back with Marcus Paltela, but the Colombian driver over the brow, and now the run towards Villeneuve.
So nothing much down into Villeneuve. Yes, you see the front of the bonnet. Yes, it's the Lamborghini. The pop, the bit of the getting very tight as the lead cars make their way past some of the cars they're lapping, and that's going to offer up opportunities for 4th and 5th positions. As is that Steve Earle?
It is Steve Earle.
It's the 888 Kessel Ferrari, the only total AM driven car in this weekend's event. So that's getting in the way of this battle for 4th and 5th. But, you know, he can't vanish. He's not magic.
No, exactly. And the one that's losing out at the moment is Clement Schmidt, who is stuck behind but will go through now. There is a stop-go penalty for Gustavo Jackermann for causing a collision. So Gustavo Jackermann is being given a stop-go, causing a collision.
I mean, he would like to review it, I'm sure, but of course it's a penalty that there is no right of appeal, so he will have to come in and go through the pit lanes. I mean, the reaction to the side-on-side was pretty clear, and that's what spun the BMW round.
We have 16 3/4 minutes to go. There is Gustavo Jackermann. He is currently 25th. Ahead, Rob Bell. Bell looking for a way past Jean-Luc Bobelic. And Gustavo Jackermann then runs along the back straight towards the chicane, and he's going to have to come in soon and serve the stop-go. You can see it was his car, but lost the bodywork. He launches himself over the curbs as well, coming out of the chicane, but over the brow of the hill on what's going to be effectively an in-lap. Right, up front, the gap has gone out again. Stuart Leonard with the traffic was 1.2 seconds. There's the first incident as Paltela brushes up against the Lamborghini, and take that.
I mean, how blatant do you have it to be? I mean, there was... What's the point? What is the point of doing that? I mean, okay, you have an argument that the collision between the two cars coming into the chicane, the rights and wrongs of it, but you don't take revenge instantly and drive your car into the back of the other car, and then you suffer the penalty of having a drive-through. That just doesn't make sense to me.
If I said, is it a possible defence that after the first contact he missed his braking point, what would you say to that?
I would say, yes, me lad.
However, it doesn't wash with
maybe
the stewards.
his foot slipped off the brake pedal. Maybe he hit divine intercept, or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, the fact is the collision occurred, and more bodywork there, yes, you can see in the middle of the Villeneuve chicane.
So the stop-go is given, and we have got 15 minutes to go, and Stuart Leonard is doing a great job, I reckon, of hanging on in there, because as yet he's not been caught. Okay, the gap is shrinking.
It is.
He is being caught now, but he is still there. He's not yet having to defend. He's going to have to do soon, but he is still there. He does still lead. Jackermann in for the stop-go, but Stuart Leonard is doing good lap times. They're comparable with the pack behind him, who are busy squabbling. I'm not necessarily sure he's going to be able to stay there for another quarter of an hour, but Leonard leads, Meadows second, Pereira third, Winkelhock fourth, and then Clement Schmidt fifth. Any one of these five could yet win it.
Absolutely. Stuart Leonard's got the best seat in the house right now, though. He's got clear air ahead of him that comes across the line just over 0.8 of a second, the advantage over second place Michael Meadows. As long as Stuart Leonard doesn't come across lapped traffic, he probably can do sufficient to keep his Audi number 17 in the lead, but it will be something beyond his control that may see the lead of this race change in the closing laps.
Raffaele Marciello looking on from the pit garage, watching Michael Meadows pace. The gap is down again by 0.2 in sector one, but of course as Meadows closes, he takes Pereira with him, so it could end up being a battle between the two Mercedes teams here. From Pereira letting Meadows do the hard work. I mean, he in turn is not looking for a way by, is he? He's quite content to sit there, let Michael Meadows do the hard work, do the closing, try and find a way up alongside Stuart Leonard, and once Meadows has done that, then Pereira can strike.
Indeed, and that's just, you know, using your head when you're driving a race car. There's no point trying to fight the sister car. That's the car that's trying to do the hard yards for you as well as for itself. But Frank Pereira is close to the rear of the number 90 Mercedes in second place, and he may be beginning to feel a little bit of the frustration, and he might even consider You know, if I can't see a way that the 90 car is going to take the lead of the race, give me the shot. Let me have a go. It's a Mercedes AMG that we want.
Drive-through penalty for Franck Pereira. It's a pit lane infringement.
The car was still on the jacks.
So, the engine started with the car on the jacks. A drive-through penalty for Franck Pereira in third place for a pit lane infringement. So that, when he serves it, will not only release Michael Meadows, it will also give Marcus Winkelhock a chance to get up on the back of the red Mercedes, because he won't have to worry about getting past Pereira. But HTP is a top team. Franck Pereira is one of the top drivers, and yet a little mistake is going to ruin their race.
Absolutely, you might call it a fundamental error. All the drivers are very well briefed in the procedures that they are permitted and not permitted to do. So for the 84 Mercedes, that's going to drop it right down outside the top 10 at least, probably outside the top 20, because that's the period of time it takes to drive through the pit lane. And now Michael Meadows knows he's got no pressure from the 84 Mercedes. He can't relax because Marcus Winkelhock, as soon as the Mercedes peels off, will be right as soon as possible onto the rear wing of the number 90 Mercedes with 12 minutes of this race remaining.
So many of the leading teams have suffered in this, haven't they? And through it all, WRT, number 17, Robin Frin started, Stuart Leonard there at the wheel of it, leads the way. Audi dominating at the moment, but is he going to win the race? Because Michael Meadows has got a chance to win this now, especially if Franck Pereira comes in this time. Hopefully the message will have got through to him. Does he come in? Yes, he does. So up to third goes Winkelhock, up to fourth goes Clement Schmidt. And Franck Pereira will head down the pit lane. It is only a drive-through, so he doesn't have to stop. But remember how long this pit lane is, and at 50 kilometres an hour, it is agonisingly slow.
And it goes on, and it goes on. As he now actually enters the pit lane proper, and every car that was behind him now just filters through, and he's only but barely midway down the pit lane, and the long exit still to come.
So he's going to fall a long way back. It ruins this race. It also potentially has an effect on tomorrow's, because, as we've been making the point, the result of this is the grid for tomorrow. The lower down you finish today, the lower down you start in the main race tomorrow afternoon. So Franck Pereira rejoins, blasts away, but massively frustrated.
He's going to come out probably 21st, 22nd.
20th, just behind Baron Bakhti.
Yeah, okay, so he's just managed to get back.
So this is the incident. The car's on the jacks. Waiting to hear the engine.
Well, it's difficult for us to hear it, but apparently the observers noted that the car did start before the jacks were down, and therefore the penalty has had to be served. But Marcus Winkelhock is the person to be keeping an eye on, because he's now just 0.8 of a second behind second place. There is the group of 4 cars, all covered by, well, basically little over a second. Stuart Leonard, with 10 minutes of this race remaining, has got a real battle on his hands. He thought maybe with the 84 car maybe making that pit stop, that might give me a little bit more relief, but no.
So 4 for the lead now, not 5, but Winkelhock will right onto the tail of Michael Meadows. The gap's 0.6 of a second, 10 minutes to go. It's coming down, it's coming down, it's coming down. But Michael Meadows on for a first outright Blancpain GT Series win. Stuart Leonard likewise. Both of them are going to be so keen to win this. And it's great to see Marcus Winkelhock going so well, because many an occasion Marcus ends up with co-drivers that aren't as quick, but here he is in a good position as they're diving up the inside of the Ferrari in Bentley number 8, Andy Soucek. He is currently in 15th. Antonio Felix da Costa ahead of him. Again, 2 drivers that should be further up the order, but both of these cars, the BMW and the Bentley, struggling around here. The setup, the feel is good. They're just not quick enough, according to drivers.
Well, they're both physically large cars, and whether that's got anything to do with their performance, I somehow doubt it. It's just a matter of getting the car, the tyres dialed in, but the Bentley looking to find a way around the BMW, but of course, again, you cannot take the chance of taking it halfway down the side of another car, then it turns in on top of you, and that will be your responsibility, and you will have to pay the penalty, and whatever the damage you've done to the car ahead of you, that's unfortunate for that driver as well.
So we've got another driver being given a drive-through penalty for a pit lane infringement, and it's the Brit Phil Quaife in the number 55 Ferrari that he shares with Lorenzo Cazze. He's down in 22nd place anyway, and the day's going to get worse, I'm afraid, for the British driver Phil Quaife, as you ride on board here with Andy Soucek, still 15th, top 6 for points in this qualifying race. And up front, Stuart Leonard still leads the way. Down towards the end of the lap, through the Jackie chicane, comes Andy Soucek, and he's on the pound now, up towards the timing line.
Outside of these top cars, and we're looking some further back, one car that's actually made progress and will start on the third row of the grid, assuming that's how they all finish, is the number 1 Audi with Enzo Weed behind the wheel. And of course Christopher Mies did the start of that race. And considering how far down they were before the race got underway, that's some consolidation and puts them both into a reasonable, at the minute, we don't know whether that's where they will finish ultimately, they're half a second ahead of the 19 Grasser Racing Lamborghini Perez Compact, but I suspect that Enzo Weed will be able to handle that car without too much difficulty.
From Pereira, 18th now after that drive-through, and will be all fired up, understandably, as Stuart Leonard still leads the way. Now, we're down to 7.5 minutes. The British driver in the Audi still in charge. Can he stay there? Replay here of the Jake Dennis Audi locking up the rears, getting on the grass. That was down at the chicane at the end of the back straight, scrabbles into the corner, gets away with it. So there, number 2, Marcus Winkelhock, he's running third. Is it going to be an Audi win? Is it going to be an Audi 1-2? Audi 1-2-3 is possible, but it could be a Mercedes win as well. Michael Meadows is 0.6 of a second back. He's done the hard yards in doing the catching, but again, as we've heard, you've got to be seconds a lap quicker, not just tenths, because it's so difficult to find a way through. The BOP means that all of these cars are so evenly matched. In 4th place is Clement Schmidt, and as they turn their way now up towards the Lucien Bianchi box, it remains just the Audi ahead, but a good run out of this corner might set Meadows up for the chicane.
Don't think it's going to happen this lap. He's not close enough to the tail of Stuart Leonard, and the Audi is working well around here, the Mercedes likewise, but watch behind as the 2 Audis there battling for that final position. You got Clement Schmidt trying to get all the way around Marcus Winkelhock. Winkelhock had been a little bit closer to the tail of the number 90 Mercedes AMG. He's dropped back momentarily, and that's given Clement Schmidt the opportunity, the chance he thinks of possibly getting up onto the podium. But it's the 88 Mercedes that's now joining into what was a 4-way battle for the podium position, making a 5-way battle, 6 minutes to go.
So Stuart Leonard still leads the way. Michael Meadows close, but actually not close enough yet to think about making a move, whereas Winkelhock's coming under attack, isn't he, from Clement Schmidt? And then behind them, have a look at the next Mercedes. Felix Morales, he's almost with them as well. It's going to be back to a 5-way fight. Schmidt goes one way, goes the other, but he can't unsettle Winkelhock down to the chicane. Through the X-box, up towards the timing line will come Stuart Leonard as the race leader. Morales inching up onto the back of Clement Schmidt. Over the line they come.
It's extended the advantage now just over a second again. So was that an error on the part of Michael Meadows, or Stuart Leonard just a little bit possessed on that last lap? And he's given himself that little bit of wriggle room that he hasn't had over the last 5 or so laps. And that's nice to know. When you look in your mirror, you see the following car, the 90 Mercedes AMG, beginning to drop back. So just 5 minutes of this race remaining, and Stuart Leonard might be beginning to breathe a little bit easier, but he's got up ahead. He's got Gustavo Jackerman in the 27 Lamborghini. That will be a lap car, but will it respond when the lead car comes up to the tail of it?
And this will be interesting now, another test of Stuart Leonard to see what he can do in the traffic, how he treats it. Is he going to be hesitant? Is he going to be very committed? As there, Clement Schmidt tries to find a way past Winkelhock. He looks on the outside into the Villeneuve chicane. That doesn't pay out for him either. So Winkelhock, with all his many, many years of experience, one-time Grand Prix racer. The one Grand Prix he did, he led the European Grand Prix a long, long time ago. And as he comes then now down towards the right-hander at Boulderberg, Winkelhock is losing touch slightly with Meadows because he's got to defend from Clement Schmidt. And Schmidt is mindful that Serrano's 5th is closing, and 6th, incidentally, is Enzo Eve. Now, there is Jackerman's Lamborghini. We've got 4 minutes to go. But I reckon that Stuart Leonard might just be able to hang on to this, assuming he doesn't lose too much time stuck in the traffic. Over the line they will come. Leonard's heart might just sink a little bit here, because he will see that slower car up the road. The lead gap is down fractionally anyway. The last thing he needs to worry about is having to think about where to get past a back marker. He wants to just try to concentrate on Michael Meadows behind, nothing more. Marcus Winkelhock, having taken over from Will Stevens, who you saw looking on a moment ago, is there in the pit garage watching the 3rd and 4th place battle between the 2 different teams that operate Audis. Belgian Audi Club Team WRT versus the ISR, the Czech squad. Right, there are the leaders down that back straight. And now Michael Meadows' lights are flashing rather cheekily to Stuart Leonard out of the chicane. Robin Prince watches on. He has done all he can do. It was a great first stint, didn't put a wheel wrong, controlled the pace. And if Stuart Leonard can hang on to win this, it will be an outstanding drive. But now Michael Meadows is on his toes. Look, the gap's come down. He's running out of options. He's running out of time. Less than 3 minutes to go. Stuart Leonard won that Sepang 12 hours, going back 2 years. But this is a far more competitive championship, a far more competitive environment. Can he hang on to win this? The pressure is starting to tell a bit now because Meadows is almost there. The back marker is up the road as well, but you've seen how difficult it can be to overtake around here. Michael Meadows nearly on the back, not quite close enough yet. Down they come with, again, Winkelhock having to defend for third place from Clement Schmidt. Felix Herrera almost there. Third, fourth, fifth squabbling will certainly help Meadows. He can concentrate on attack, not defending. Jackerman does exactly the right thing, gets out of the way of the whole of the leading train. Through they go. 2.5 minutes. It's going to be 2 more laps. The lead gap is 0.8 of a second. Through the first left they go. Up now towards Sterrenwacht. Through that right-hander goes the leader Stuart Leonard. And Michael Meadows tucked up behind, hustling on. Having moved away from Stuart Leonard and the WRT Audi to Mercedes and the ACA ASP squad, Raffaele Marciello, the man that did the first stint, watching what's going on, willing Michael Meadows' car to have a bit more pace as it runs down the back straight. Leonard still leads the way. The gap at the end of sector 1 down by a gnat, in fairness. And Meadows coming under renewed pressure, I reckon, from Winkelhock, because second to third gaps come down slightly as well. Over the brow now towards the Villeneuve chicane they come. They will squeeze just 1 more lap out of it at the end of this. Stuart Leonard soaking up the pressure. These must be the longest laps of his life because he's got them all stacked up behind. He's so close to a race win. But actually now Winkelhock is about to do him the biggest favour. Another of the WRT Audis helps the leader because by attacking Meadows, suddenly Michael has got to defend. He will take the slower lines, and look, the gap has opened up straight away. Stuart Leonard, about to start the last lap, might just have got his get out of jail free card, courtesy of his teammate, attacking Michael Meadows for second place. To the chicane they come, left and then right, up towards the line. 1 lap to run. Stuart Leonard leads the way. Michael Meadows second. Marcus Winkelhock third. Fourth is Clement Schmidt. Fifth is Felix Terrades. And sixth is Enzo Eid as they work their way into the first left. The lead gap is up again. It's 11/10 as Meadows has to defend. And so Winkelhock might not be able to find a way past him, but he is helping the race leading car, the sister car at WRT, by delaying and forcing to defend Michael Meadows. From Kanalbocht up towards the Lucien Bianchi corner. So unless Stuart Leonard makes a mistake, it looks as though he's done enough. He's got enough of the margin in hand now. Onto that back straight they come. To the chicane. Turns 5 and 6. In the first sector, the gap was down by 3/10 though. Michael Meadows good through the fast turn 4. But the Audi able to ride the curbs well at the chicanes, which has always been a factor in its pace around Zolder, leading the pack downhill into the Villeneuve chicane. Right, left, then you turn right again at Terlamenbocht. There is Stuart Leonard. It's going to be close if he does hang on to the win, but Michael Meadows closing not quickly enough, and so Stuart Leonard has had a very long, it must feel like, second stint, has not put a wheel wrong. He's maintained the gap, modest as it might have been, but Stuart Leonard is only a couple of corners away from a maiden outright Blancpain GT Series win. He's had class victories, but this is going to be a great result for him. Stuart Leonard blasts his way now down towards the X-Bocht. The checkered flag is at the ready. Michael Meadows is not close enough, and so it's going to be a win in the qualifying race for Robin Prince. And Stuart Leonard, the British driver, brings the car across the line and scores victory right now at Zolder as the flag is waved. He comes across the timing line 7/10 ahead of Michael Meadows. Third is Marcus Winkelhock, and fourth goes to Clement Schmidt ahead of Felix Terrades and Enzo Eid. It's a great drive by Robin Prince to lead the opening stint, and Stuart Leonard, mega job as well to withstand the pressure, wins the race in the second stint of nose to tail, and now side by side up towards the line. Bentley 7, Vincent Abril just ahead of Marcel Fassler, 12th and 13th, 14th behind them Antonio Felix da Costa, and then Andy Soucek with Franck Pereira 16th. And in Pro-Am it is going to be a win for 39. Pity Pierron Bardet, because Alexander Matschel, unseen, has had a drama and lost his class lead and fallen back behind. The Asian team is operated by Kessel Racing in Europe, but with some of the Asian GT personnel that operated the car in the past. There is 74 up to the timing line then. Kevin Chekon, who of course dropped back early, that car did, with Frank Stipper at the wheel after it was involved in the first corner incident. Well, a race full of drama, and in the end, a win, the first for Stuart Leonard and for Robin Frins. Stuart Leonard will be overjoyed. I'm sure he was pretty overcome with second in the main race at Brands Hatch. Well, they've gone one better. Stuart and Robin Frins. Stuart came out of Caterham Racing into British GT and then Blancpain Pro-Am. Made the move at the end of 2015 to WRT. Won the Sepang 12 Hours and stayed on for a full Blancpain GT season last year, and now he'll be on the top step of the podium in a Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup race. It's the qualifying race, but it gives them pole position for tomorrow's main race as well. So Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins take the race win. Down the pit road comes Stuart, the winning margin being 0.798 of a second. Very, very close at the end, and a Belgian team winning in Belgium is certainly going to start the party, I would have thought. Vincent Voss's team, which has had a modest start to the season. It did look at one point, with an hour and a half to go, as though it was on target for a win in the Nürburgring 24 Hours a week ago, only for the weather to come, pit stops and tyre choice to change all of that on the penultimate lap. So finally, Vincent may think we've had a win this year, about time too. But Stuart Leonard is going to be overjoyed, and I suspect that Robin Frins will be there to congratulate him early on. On the side of the car, hashtag Paul Wilson 32. Paul, along with Michael Meadows and Stuart, were Pro-Am winners at Silverstone a couple of years ago, and we sadly lost Paul to cancer on the eve of Silverstone's Blancpain event this year, so he is remembered by his former co-drivers and now by first-time Blancpain winner Stuart Leonard, who opens the door, squeezes himself out of the car, clambers over the rail cage, and has done it. Robin Frins walks over to congratulate a hugely delighted Stuart Leonard. And he didn't just luck into that, he had to control that second stint, and he did it perfectly. There is the Pro-Am winning car, which is the 39 Ferrari. Carlo Van Dam and Piti Piranbahti. Vincent Voss walks down the pit lane to go and congratulate his drivers, as Michael Meadows, so near and yet so far, a little frustrated, no doubt, clambers out of the second place car. But let's hear from Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins. John Watson has caught up with them.
Congratulations, Robin. You had the benefit of being in pole position. You pulled away, had a pretty uneventful drive.
Yeah, at the beginning I was pulling away quite easily from the McLaren. Then the pace was similar. Then he had a drive through. I don't know why or what happened really, but at the end Marcello was behind with the Mercedes, and he was like 1.5, 2 tenths quicker than me, and I was quite pushing. I lost a bit of time when I entered the pits, because the Ferrari was in front of me, and you know the pit lane over there, you can lose quite a bit of time. But at the end, Stu jumped in, and he didn't do any mistakes. And as long as you do mistakes in Zolder, no one will overtake you. So he did a really good job.
Well, you did a great job, Stuart. Fantastic. I mean, I don't know whether this rates in your list of great achievements in motorsport. Must be pretty high.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely one of the top for sure. No, I mean, I'm a bit speechless, to be honest. Thank you to Robin for the amazing job. Thank you to the guys from the pit stop and everything. Everyone's been really supportive and really helpful and helped push me along. So it's been really fantastic.
Now, once you got into the car, your stint, you were always under pressure from the 90 Mercedes and the 84 for that matter, and you didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, that's literally what I was just trying to focus on. Just being aware, obviously, of where they were, but at the same time, just trying to keep the gap, and that's all I did.
Well done, guys. Enjoy it.
A great drive by Stuart Leonard. Kind of get used to it from Robin Frins because of his background and winning so many single-seater championships. But Stuart Leonard, alluding to the facts, though, in his answer to John's question of how the team have pushed him forward, he has come on a lot in a short space of time as a driver. Lots of different races, endurance and sprint events, lots of seat time has all helped develop him. As we can go back to John and hear from Raffaele Marciello and Michael Meadows in second.
Raffaele, the opening stint of that race was just barking bad.
Yeah, we did like a good race. We tried to secure a good start position for tomorrow, and I think from P2 we can have a good race tomorrow and try to finish at the podium and do what we didn't do in Misano in race of Sunday race.
And the main thing is you stayed clear. You were clear of all the incident into turn one.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I didn't see the replay, but I went to speak to Mirko. I was just straight and something happened beside me. I think the Audi or McLaren, they touched and they went into me. Luckily nothing happened to my car, and it was a good race and nothing special to end.
Michael, another great race. I mean, putting pressure all the time on your friend Stuart Leonard. How do you get past here?
You can't really. I mean, it's almost impossible unless you have a huge pace advantage or something, but we didn't. You know, I tried to put him under pressure, but I didn't want him to start defending because I didn't want to be backed up into the pack. So, you know, I knew where our car was strong and where I could gap them, where I could close, but I didn't want to do anything too risky. You know, it's just a qualification race, so it's just important to be on the front row tomorrow, and then tomorrow we'll win, hopefully.
And of course, Frank Pereiro's all over you like a rash as well behind you.
Yeah, well, he's a fast driver and it's a fast car, so I know exactly where his car's strong because mine's strong in the same places. But he had one lap advantage, you know, in the track conditions, but I wasn't too worried. You know, he's quite a clean driver and he wasn't going to do anything stupid.
Front row of the grid for tomorrow. I think you'll take that, would you, Raffaele?
What, sorry?
Front row of the grid tomorrow. You'll take that.
Yeah, it's good. He will start.
Yeah, come on, be a bit more Italian, a bit more enthusiasm.
No, we will see tomorrow. But Misano was really happy, and then something happened in the Sunday race. So we have to be calm and try to score points. But I mean, we are fast, so we have to do our job.
Good man. Well done. Thank you.
Michael Meadows and Raffaele Marciello third in the qualifying race at Misano, and then it fell apart in the main race, so you can understand the caution. So it's third for Marcus Winkelhock and Will Stevens, as they were third also in the main race at Brands Hatch last time out. So Audi, Mercedes, Audi in the top three, and Marcus Winkelhock and Will Stevens taking third place. Time we heard from the Audi drivers with John.
Will Stevens, you started on the fifth row of the grid. Did you imagine you'd be on the podium?
I mean, to be honest, we always knew we'd gain positions, especially with the boys in the pit stop, so it's nice to start a little bit further up here and make our lives a little bit easier. But we had a good start, managed to avoid the crash, and then came in a good position, good pit stop. We had the fastest one again, and then Winky took over and brought it home.
Well, how did you manage to avoid the collision into turn one?
To be honest, I knew there was going to be a crash about 50 minutes before it happened because everyone was closing in, so I braked really early. And could manage to get to the inside to miss it. So I could see it was going to happen and just took it easy, to be honest. Went to the inside and managed to miss it.
Marcus, you brought the car home in third position overall. Little Brit did a good job for you today, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Little Brit, this one.
Yeah, he did well. I think in general the team did a great job. You know, we as a driver pairing and the guys with the pit stops again, like in Brands. So I think it was a perfect race. Almost, you know, coming from P8 to podium is good position and for sure a good starting position for tomorrow as well.
When everybody's so close as this race was, do you get any satisfaction really, or is it just frustrating?
No, I'm happy with the result, and for sure I was struggling with the pace today a little bit. I had quite a lot of turning oversteer, so and the Audi behind me was putting some pressure on me, so I was just trying to do no mistake, and it was a bit not easy, let's say, but no, it was a good race, good fun.
Well done, thank you.
Thanks, man.
So for the podium, Will Stevens and Marcus Winkelhock, they will make their way there shortly, and it's been an excellent drive by Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins for the top step. Pro-Am, just to confirm there, Piti Bieron-Bahti, the winner with Carlo Van Dam. Second, Alexander Matschel and Daniel Karlwitz. And then third, Giacomo Piccini and Michael Bronizeski from the back of the grid. So it was a race that had that long safety car period early on, but controlled by Robin Frins. The results after 37 laps of racing: Audi victorious with Stuart Leonard, Robin Frins ahead of the Mercedes of Michael Meadows and Raffaele Marciello. Marcus Winkelhock and Will Stevens third from Clement Schmidt and Philip Salaquada. Felix Terrales and Danny Juncadella fifth, then Enzo Eid and Christopher Mies with Ezequiel Perez Companc and Norbert Siedler seventh. Dominic Baumann and Jimmy Eriksson eighth, Giovanni Venturini and Marco Mappelli ninth, and then Ben Barnicoat and Alvaro Parent 10th. A race that could have been so much better for McLaren. David Fumanelli's McLaren 11th, Francois Abril, Stephen Kane 12th, and it was Marcel Fassler and Dries Van Thor. Antonio Felix da Costa and Philippe Eng next ahead of Andy Soucek and Maxime Soulet. Franck Pereira 16th with Maxi Bouc after the drive-through ahead of Fabian Schiller and Jules Szymkowiak. And then the Pro-Am winners, Piti Bieron-Bahti and Carlo Van Dam, coming home in 18th place, as there we have our third and our second, and now our winning teams on the podium, along with the WRT team represented for its success. So the winning drivers will in a moment receive their trophies, with the third place team, Marcus Winkelhock and Will Stevens, they're receiving the trophy first of all, and the two ex-Grand Prix drivers. Will actually did more Formula 1 races than Marcus, but both of them had made it to Formula 1. They team up together this year, and third place for the Audi drivers. There for second place, Raffaele Marciello, Michael Meadows, the Mercedes crew, taking their best Sprint Cup result of the season. But there's no argument that it's the best also for those guys on the top step. Robin Frins and Stuart Leonard will receive the winning drivers' trophies in a moment. For WRT, the team's trophy goes the way of Vincent Voss's squad once more. And Audi is back, it seems, after a rather modest, rather anonymous start to the season. It's good to have them looking so strong once again. The opposition may disagree, but it's nice to have different brands up there. So Misano dominated by Mercedes, Brands Hatch dominated by Lamborghini. In both instances, the same crew, same car of course, won the qualifying and the main race. So is it going to be a case of another double for Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins? Well, we'll find out tomorrow afternoon. But you have to say, John, that was an excellent drive by Stuart Leonard. We almost make out that he's not as good as others. He is a good driver, but he's not done that many years of racing, but he's learnt fast and he's learnt well.
I think he drove an excellent race this afternoon. He was always under constant pressure. One little error, one little misjudgment under braking, maybe trying to pull away from the pack to give himself that little bit of comfort zone. He didn't do that. He saw the pack run him down, got to within just over 0.6 of a second, and then by the race finish it opened back up over a second. Then on the final lap, of course, he was able to relax that a little bit more comfortably. A comfortable 3/4 of a second victory for Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins.
So in the Sprint Cup, Maxi Buch and Franck Pereira have now 5-point advantage over Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt, with Stuart Leonard and then Robin Frins next, ahead of Marcus Paltner and Jesse Krohn, Stephen Kane and Vincent Abriel 6th, just ahead of Marcus Winkelhock and Will Stevens. That result for Michael Meadows and Raffaele Marciello bring them a little bit nearer to the top of the standings. They're now 9th, but still more work to be done in the Sprint Cup. This is the third event, and there are 5, of course, Sprint Cup 5 endurance events over the course of the season. And what a difference a year has made. Enzo Eade still struggling. They're down in 21st in the standings. So the Pro-Am and also the Silver Cup podiums will be getting underway next, as now onto the podium come the drivers for third in the Silver Cup, namely out of the number 67 Lamborghini, Nicky Pola and Max van Splinteren. For second place, it will be Fabian Schiller and Joachim Kowiak, and then the top step of the podium will be some consolation, at least for Straka Racing, because Lewis Williamson and David Fuminelli take honours in the Silver Cup as they step forward and now head for the top step of the podium as class winners here at Zolder in the qualifying race for round 3 of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. So McLaren, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Straka, HTP and the Tempto being the cars and the teams as the drivers stand on the podium. David Fuminelli and Lewis Williamson on the top step, I think, are awaiting a British national anthem for a British team in Straka, but none is forthcoming for the moment. So in the end, the McLaren winning by just under 10 seconds from the Mercedes, with the Lamborghini taking third in the Silver Cup. With the absence of an anthem, we'll move to trophies then. So the presentations to be made, and of course in reverse order. So third goes to Nicholas Pola, ex-Formula 3 racer, and Max van Splunteren, who comes from a good racing family. Father Paul van Splunteren, we've seen in Blancpain endurance events over a number of seasons and plenty of other categories as well as that. Fabian Schiller and Jules Kowiak, who was the Sean Edwards Award winner at the end of last year for aspiring young drivers. He and Fabian Schiller take the second place trophy. And then for Stracker Racing, the class-winning trophy for the team is handed over, and then the drivers' trophies will be next. David Fumanelli and Lewis Williamson ready to receive the trophy. And David Fumanelli, former European and Italian Formula 3 racer, has had a spell in GP3, drove in the Blancpain Endurance Series back in 2014 as well, whereas Lewis Williamson is new to the Blancpain GT Series this year. He did drive for Stracker in the Renault Sport Trophy last year, and also for Stracker in the World Endurance Championship, but making a career switch, the former BRDC McLaren Autosport Young Driver of the Year award winner. So the champagne is at the driver's feet, and they elect not to spray but to save. They make their way off the podium, as we will now have the Pro-Am drivers brought forward, all being well. This is how we are in the Silver Cup after the 3 races thus far. And it is Lewis Williamson who has the class advantage, with Jules Kowiak and Fabian Schiller just 5 points behind him. Then it is David Fumanelli, Nick Leventis, who bashed himself about quite a bit at Monza, next but not racing for the moment, ahead of Phil Quaife and Lorenzo Casi, with Max van Splunteren and Nicky Pola now creeping into the mix as well after a podium result here today. So the Pro-Am drivers will be next. A class win for Carlo Van Dam and Piti Bieron-Bahti. Carlo Van Dam making a very welcome return to European racing, and he should be on the top step of the podium with Piti Bieron-Bahti very shortly. We've got the drivers being rounded up and now called forward. So Giacomo Piccini and Michael Bronizeski are heading up the stairs for third place. They will join runners-up in the class, Alexander Matschul and Daniel Karlwitz, and then the class winners for the Pro-Am category, namely Piti Bieron-Bahti and Carlo Van Dam, and they will be there in a moment. We've also got Steve Earle, David Perel as the Am Cup winners as well there. Let's have a look at the highlights, though, of the qualifying race here at Zolder. It began with a bang as the traffic went 3-4 wide down to the first corner, and it was Comme Ledegar who hit the wall. It was Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini that suffered damage, and both out on the spot. Others were fortunate to avoid contact. It could have been a whole lot worse. That inevitably brought out the safety car, but not before there was even more drama around the lap, as Nicholas Pola's Lamborghini got involved with a whole phalanx of Ferraris that tried to trip over themselves at the Villeneuve chicane. Pola managed to battle his way through. The safety car picked up race leader Robin Frins, and when the race got back underway, the battle raged on behind between the Mercedes for third place. Also busy battling too was Maxime Soulet, who worked his way up on the inside of Jean-Philippe Belloc in the Mercedes and powered his way through. Looking back from the Jesse Kroh and Marcus Paltler BMW, he was in the thick of the action as the pit window opened, and in for what turned out to be a critical pit stop was Maxi Bouc, but as he handed over to Franck Pereira, the engine was deemed to have fired up when the car was still on the jacks, and the drive-through penalty eventually ruined their race. Stuart Leonard maintained the race lead after the pit stops. Michael Meadows second. Pereira was third at the time, and almost coming a cropper heading into the pit lane, the Rover BMW, oh so close to the traffic. Bieron-Bahti tried to battle Vincent Abril, lost 2 places, and then way off the road there, coming out of the first corner in 86, was Dominic Baumann. He got away with that. Rather less fortunate was Marcus Paltler, who was given this tap in the tail from Gustavo Jackermann, and he got a drive-through penalty for his pains. Off the road in 42 went Lewis Williamson, but he was able to get back on, fending off the traffic behind. But up front, as the battle pack grew for the race lead, Stuart Leonard was still able to maintain the advantage. There were nervous faces in the pit garages. Robin Frins could do no more other than sit and watch and hope as his race-leading co-driver soaked up the pressure. Raffaele Marciello watched his co-driver Michael Meadows fight as Franck Pereira bailed to serve his penalty for that pit lane infringement. Jake Dennis caught a big slide in the car, delayed early on with Peter Schotthorst at the wheel of it, but through would come the race leader, Stuart Leonard, on target for a race win. Over the timing line came Stuart Leonard and Robin Frins to score victory in this qualifying race at Zolder. A great drive by Robin Frins in the first stint, and a great drive by Stuart Leonard to soak up the pressure and bring it home for a first Blancpain GT Series win. Previously, qualifying race winners have done the double. Can they do the double tomorrow? We'll see. Join John Watson and David Addison for then. For now, goodbye.